The miracle of birth is sometimes more than just a miracle. Sometimes God has an angel step in to lend a helping hand. A man in coveralls guided this confused young woman to life-saving help and then disappeared. Could he have been an angel? Did the voice of an angel prevent a tragic shot from being fired? The news story of a tragic disaster turned out to be the story of a disaster yet to come. You are about to see real-life stories that show us how God can and sometimes does use angels to give us guidance in times of special need. It was supposed to be just an ordinary train ride, but before it was over, Eunice Barrow would feel a compelling presence and see an angel in a most unlikely place.
I was 15 or 16 years old at the time. We had just moved to Compton, California, and my mother and I got on the commuter train to go to Long Beach. We hadn't been on the train very long when I just really had an overpowering feeling. I just had the sudden feeling that I had to get off the train.
What's the matter?
Why are you like this? I just want to get off the train. I don't know.
In spite of her mother's protest, the compulsion that Eunice felt to leave the train was so strong that she began making her way toward the exit, even though there was no sign of a scheduled stop and the train was still moving. There seemed to be nothing Eunice's mother could say that would persuade her to stay on the train. At last she gave in, expecting the fact that the train was still going to convince her daughter she couldn't get off. But strangely, by the time Eunice had reached the platform, the train had come to a full stop. Of even more concern to her mother was the fact that they found themselves in some kind of industrial area. Eunice didn't have the foggiest idea why she was there, or why she'd gotten off the train for that matter. Still, she felt compelled to go on, and that feeling was now coupled with a sense of urgency. This was not an area Eunice would have chosen to be in, but she simply didn't seem to have a choice. Her mother followed after her, trying to get her to stop. But Eunice was oblivious now to everything but the powerful urge to hurry. Desperately, she looked about and finally spotted an old service station that looked like it might be open for business. Immediately, she made her way toward it.
Excuse me.
Well now, you'd be looking for a hospital. Keep going down this street, about 2 blocks. It's on the right, you can't miss it. You better hurry now.
A hospital?
Eunice, what is it? What in the world are you doing?
I don't know. This man just told me
There wasn't time to wonder over this strange turn of events. The urgency she had begun to feel earlier was now even greater. She hurried down the street toward what she had been told was a hospital. Eunice still couldn't imagine why she'd been told to go to the hospital. But at this point, she was determined to find out.
Of course, course, as soon as I came in to the admittance desk, they admitted me because I probably looked as sick as I felt.
Doctor! Doctor!
Somebody help me!
Take it to the yard.
It wasn't very much later that I was in surgery and had the appendix removed. My doctor afterward told me that I was very fortunate that I came in when I did, that I'd gotten there just in time, that the appendix was red hot and just about to rupture. If I hadn't listened to my inner voice, I probably would have had to undergo a lot of suffering and possibly death. I do feel that something made me get off the train, and it could have been my unconscious mind or intuition, and whatever it was, giving it a name doesn't really explain it.
The compelling feeling convinced Eunice Barrow to get off the train. But what of the service station attendant who directed her to the hospital? Perhaps James Russell Lowell was right when he said, "All God's angels come to us disguised." Disguised even as a service station attendant in coveralls. God always knows when someone is in danger. Sometimes he sends angels to help us, and sometimes we sense their presence. Or we may just hear a voice. Jim Bilbrey tells us of his angel encounter.
Dad had a new muzzle loader. He's a gun enthusiast.
It was a family get-together. They were doing familiar things in familiar surroundings. But a mysterious voice changed their lives forever
So he had this
and saved a child from a terrible death.
Well, he showed the boys how you put the gunpowder in, you measure it, stick it in, you put the patch and the ball in there, shove it on down. Then he would set this primer cap at the trigger mechanism where he'd drill a little hole in there or make the hole bigger and clean. And then he'd take it outside and fire it. So he had this new one, and he wanted to show it to us. My little daughter Carissa, she's about 5 at the time. Jeremy was probably 9 and Jason was 12. About 70 feet up the hill, he'd had set up a target. The target was made from an old box that had held a toy, and he'd flattened it out and put it up there. And Dad says, "I need a bullseye for the target."
I got something. Hold on. Look at Grandpa right there.
I said, "Well, I got a business card," and I fished out a business card out of my pocket.
Put that on the target and shoot it down. That'd work.
Went on up the hill and stuck it on the target, which was setting against a small tree stump, a rotten tree stump.
Hey, keep an eye on his shirt because he's going to shoot. And watch down there at the target. He's going to shoot this time. So plug your ears. Look at Grandpa. Look at that gun.
So he aims,
There it goes. Plug your ears.
and the boys just, they're holding their ears. He pulls the trigger, and the ball went boom.
Check that out. Come
Shot through the air, hit the target, blew through it, blew apart part of the stump behind it, and ran through several saplings. It was an amazing amount of power for something so primitive. I couldn't believe it. And Dad said, "Well, I got one more ball to shoot. Who wants to try it now?" Dad was good that way. He would let us learn by doing. He showed them how to clean out the rifle, how to measure out the gunpowder so you had just the right amount, pour it in neatly, and put the patch and the ball, and ram it down in there again. And we stood there, and Dad got ready. None of us thought about the fact that Carissa wasn't around. We figured she'd gotten bored. He put his finger on the trigger. Dad had the target lined up. Things got quiet. Suddenly, from behind us came a wall of sound. It was a voice, but none of us had said it. It had presence. It pushed against us. And Dad took his finger off the trigger, and out from behind the target stepped Carissa. She had been, she said, looking through a hole in the target. Her head was where the bullseye was. The next bullet would have gone through there. And my knees just turned to water. Dad turned pale. The rifle came down. Automatically, we knew instantly what would have happened to her if she hadn't stepped out from behind the target, or if the voice hadn't happened. It was a miracle that my little girl was not dead. She would have been gone. We wouldn't have had Carissa anymore. Now Carissa is 14 at this time, soon to turn 15. She's a poet with great wisdom. I'm so grateful we have Carissa with us. We know that what happened was a miracle. I don't know what else to call it.
Was what they heard the voice of an angel? We know that a voice was certainly heard and felt. And a life that would otherwise have been cut short may yet reach out and touch us with all the beauty of her words and being.
Several years ago, my friend Linda asked me if I could help her with a project.
Sometimes the warning voice comes from a most unexpected source. Samantha Blair may have heard the voice of an angel on the radio.
Friends. One of those people was my friend Kelly. During the 6 months that I worked with Linda and Kelly, we had an awful lot of fun, and we worked hard together and we played hard together. Then about 8 years ago, I returned to Los Angeles, and one night I was getting ready for bed, and I had my radio on.
News. Beloved local personality Kelly Lamont died today in a skiing accident in Aspen, Colorado. The young performer was caught in an avalanche that trapped her and several others. Rescuers were unable to reach Kelly in time to save her life. The search continues for other victims.
And I heard the announcer say that my friend Kelly had died in a skiing accident in Aspen. It was too late at night for me to call anybody and find out if this was true. I couldn't believe that Kelly had died. I just couldn't believe it. The next morning I got up and I'm listening to the radio and there's nothing on the radio. I got to the office. Nobody's heard anything about it. There's nothing in the paper. I called the radio station. No, they hadn't announced it. So obviously I hadn't heard what I thought I had heard. Unfortunately, the feeling that I had that Kelly was in danger would not go away.
Hello. Kelly? Samantha, how are you?
I'm so worried about you. I thought I heard this thing on the radio. It must have been a dream.
What kind of dream?
I dreamt you died in a skiing accident in Aspen.
Samantha, you're not going to believe this. I'm packing for Aspen right now. This is so weird. I've been having the weirdest feelings about this trip. I'm so glad you called. I'm not going to go. I'm going to cancel.
And when we hung up, I felt this tremendous sense of relief that she had been saved.
At the top of the
A few days later, the media carried reports that a devastating avalanche had struck Aspen, Colorado.
I don't know if she would have died if she'd gone to Aspen, but I feel very much that the warning was true, and that if she had gone to Aspen, she would have been in danger.
A powerful voice linked two friends together across the years, and words of warning were planted in the heart of Samantha Blair through a voice that came to her in a most ordinary, if unexpected way. Could the voice of the newscaster on the radio have actually been the voice of an angel? We often hear the phrase, the miracle of birth. But some births, it seems, are even more miraculous than others.
I'm afraid we're going to lose him.
In the case of Jackson and Cheryl Cannon, for example, the events surrounding the birth of their first child were not only miraculous, but probably involved angels as well. The Cannons made their home in a remote mountain region about 70 miles from the nearest town. In the first week of this particular October, the mountainside weather took one of its dramatic changes for the worse. So Jackson and Cheryl were happy that their little house was warm and dry, and there was no need for them to leave it any time soon.
Man, there's a storm coming.
Oh, I'm glad I don't have to go anywhere for the next 4 weeks. I'll just stay right here, thank you very much.
Oh, well, I brought something.
For me?
Well, for the baby. What do you think?
You have everything figured out, don't you? What school he'll go to?
The best, my alma mater.
What type of woman he'll marry?
Someone just like you.
And what position he'll play on the baseball team?
Shortstop, of course.
Well,
okay.
Jackson's mom lived next door to the couple, which made it easy for them to share their enthusiasm with her on a daily basis. She was a kind and gentle woman, but never afraid to speak her mind.
I think you've already made better plans for his career than you did for your own.
Well, you can't start too soon, Mom.
I'm serious, Jackson. He's not even born yet, and already you've made some big decisions for him. I don't think it's a good idea.
Well, he's a baby.
Let me show you something. Cheryl, here's your husband when he was 8 years old.
I must have been really mad when they took that one.
You were. Your father had just told you were going to take piano lessons whether you wanted to or not. Jackson's father had hopes of raising a concert pianist.
somehow, honey, I don't think you were cut out for that.
Well, I wasn't, but Dad had other ideas, you know?
You told him what you wanted to do with your life, but he didn't listen, did he? That's what I'm trying to say. Keep an open mind. When your son is born, be ready to listen to him. You can learn a lot.
You really believe that?
Of course. I learned a great deal by listening to you. Sometimes children can teach us more than we can teach them.
Well, thanks for lunch, Dorothy.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed the company. By the way, when's your due date?
Well, the doctors say the 20th, so that's about a month from now. Which is great because we haven't even started on his room yet.
What's the matter?
I don't know. It's as if someone's nudging me.
You must be having contractions.
No, it's not that. It's like someone's pushing me from the side.
Well, is it the baby?
I'm not sure.
You must go to the hospital.
Oh, I'll be all right.
Well, I don't know, Cheryl. I think we should. The weather is starting to kick up a little bit, and we might not be able to get back.
You are not taking chances with my grandchild. You've got to get down to town now. I mean it.
So Jackson and Cheryl made the 2-hour drive into town solely on the basis of the strange nudges that Cheryl had felt. As it turned out, another few minutes' delay would have been disastrous. Cheryl had suddenly gone into full labor. There had been no warning, no physical sign of her approaching delivery, but the baby was coming nonetheless. And there was a problem. The baby's umbilical cord was wrapped around its neck, cutting off the fluids on which it still relied.
I'm afraid we're going to lose him.
I'm scared.
Doctor, he's choking to death.
We need Ramirez. Is Ramirez still in the building?
He left about half an hour ago. He'll never get back in time. I don't believe it. Dr. Ramirez, thank God you're here.
I got you covered, Pat. Hi, how you doing?
Dr. Ramirez is our resident expert on complications such as this. He'll take good care of you.
Baby's going to be just fine.
Dr. Ramirez was not scheduled to be in the hospital at this time, but by some strange circumstance, he happened to arrive at exactly the moment his unique skills were needed most.
So I've been talking to the whole staff, babe. They say they've never seen another delivery quite like this.
Well, I'll say. Hi, Doc.
Hi. You look wonderful. You both look wonderful. And just to think, we just about lost this little guy. You're a lucky little fellow.
Glad you got here when you did.
So am I. You know, that's the strange part.
What's that?
Well, I was on my way out the door, done for the day.
See you tomorrow.
Then suddenly I felt this push, like somebody didn't want me to leave the hospital. It was like a physical sensation that compelled me, I don't know why, back to the delivery room. Well, I guess not. It was almost like he called me for help.
Hello?
Jackson?
Oh, hi, Mom.
How's she doing?
We're just about to call you. She's doing fine, and, well, congratulations.
You're kidding.
You're a grandmother to a beautiful, healthy baby boy.
Oh!
You gotta come down and see him.
Well, I'd love to, but
But what?
there's been another mudslide. The one road leading to and from town is completely blocked. Well, it would be days before I could get into town, or for you kids to come home. Jackson? Are you there?
Yeah, I'll call you back, Mom.
Honey?
There was a mudslide. The road's completely closed. If we hadn't driven down when we did, this little guy wouldn't be here.
The strange pushing sensations that guided Cheryl Cannon and Dr. Ramirez to this miraculous birth were truly unique. Neither person has ever felt anything like that since. But both Cheryl and the doctor are convinced that angels, when directed to do so, can be very persistent. Tobias Miller wrote, "Even when an angel crosses our path in silence, God has said to us, 'I am here. I am present in your life.'"
If I hadn't experienced those nudges and those bumps, whatever they were, I don't know what they were, but I do know that because we heeded them, it saved my baby's life.
We've seen 4 situations in which something mysterious happened to save individuals from harm. Were angels active in each of these events? We can't be absolutely sure, but we can be sure that God knows when people are in peril, and sometimes He sends angels to guide them to safety.